Self-discipline is the invisible force that separates those who merely dream from those who achieve. It's the bridge between intention and action, between who you are and who you aspire to become. In a world overflowing with distractions, instant gratification, and endless temptations, the ability to govern yourself becomes not just valuable, but essential for any meaningful existence. The ancient Stoics understood this fundamental truth 2,000 years ago, and their wisdom remains as relevant today as it was in the marble halls of Rome. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor who ruled the greatest empire in history while battling his own inner demons, left us a roadmap in his personal journal, known to us as Meditations. These weren't grand proclamations meant for public consumption, but intimate conversations with himself about how to live with virtue, strength, and unwavering self-control. Through his struggles and triumphs, along with the teachings of Epictetus and Seneca, we discover that true power doesn't come from controlling others or external circumstances, but from mastering the one domain we can truly govern, ourselves. The foundation of all self-discipline begins with understanding the dichotomy of control, a principle that Epictetus taught and Marcus Aurelius embodied throughout his reign. This ancient wisdom teaches us to focus our energy exclusively on what lies within our power while accepting what does not. As Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This isn't passive resignation, but active empowerment. When you truly internalize this principle, you stop wasting precious mental energy on things beyond your influence and channel that power toward what you can actually change. Your thoughts, your reactions, your choices, your effort, these remain yours regardless of external chaos. The undisciplined mind scatters its attention across 1,000 concerns, most of which it cannot control, leaving little energy for meaningful action. The disciplined mind, however, concentrates its full force on the sphere of personal responsibility. Every moment you spend worrying about others' opinions, external outcomes, or circumstances beyond your influence is a moment stolen from building the life you desire. This principle demands brutal honesty about what you can and cannot control, but within that honesty lies liberation. When you accept that you cannot control the storm, you can focus entirely on becoming the captain who navigates through it with skill and composure. True self-discipline emerges from understanding that your character is forged not in moments of comfort, but in the crucible of difficulty. Marcus Aurelius faced plagues, wars, betrayals, and the crushing weight of imperial responsibility, yet he viewed each hardship as an opportunity to strengthen his virtue. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way, he reminded himself. This perspective transforms every obstacle from a reason to quit into a chance to grow stronger. When you encounter resistance, whether internal or external, you can choose to see it as the universe providing you with exactly the training your character needs. The person who avoids difficulty never develops the mental muscles necessary for self-discipline. Like a sword that becomes sharp through friction against the whetstone, your resolve strengthens through contact with challenges. This doesn't mean seeking unnecessary hardship, but rather embracing the inevitable difficulties of life as opportunities for growth. Every time you choose the harder path when it serves your long-term good, every time you persist when everything in you wants to quit, every time you maintain your principles under pressure, you are adding another layer of strength to your character. The Stoics believed that virtue was the only true good, and virtue can only be developed through practice, often in circumstances that test your commitment to your principles. The disciplined mind maintains emotional equilibrium, not by suppressing feelings, but by refusing to be controlled by them. Seneca taught that we suffer more in imagination than in reality, while Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself that external events cannot disturb him without his permission. This principle recognizes that emotions are natural and often inevitable, but our responses to those emotions remain under our control. The undisciplined person becomes a slave to every fluctuation of mood, every surge of anger, every wave of anxiety or desire. The disciplined person acknowledges these feelings, but maintains the freedom to choose their response. This requires developing what the Stoics called the discipline of desire. Learning to want what you have rather than being tormented by what you lack. When you feel the pull of anger, you can pause and ask whether this emotion serves your highest good. When anxiety about the future grips you, you can return your attention to the present moment and the actions available to you right now. When desire for something beyond your reach torments you, you can redirect that energy toward appreciation for what you possess. This emotional mastery doesn't happen overnight, but through consistent practice of observing your inner state without being swept away by it. Each time you maintain your composure under pressure, each time you choose your response rather than simply reacting, you strengthen the neural pathways of self-control. The practice of temperance in all things creates the foundation upon which lasting self-discipline is built. The Stoics understood that excess in any direction, even in positive pursuits, can become a form of slavery. Marcus Aurelius practiced moderation not from a place of deprivation, but from recognition that true satisfaction comes from having enough rather than having everything. This principle extends far beyond material possessions to encompass all areas of life: food, entertainment, work, exercise, even virtue itself. The person who cannot say no to a second helping of dessert will struggle to say no to other impulses that undermine their goals. The person who cannot moderate their consumption of entertainment will find it difficult to focus when serious work demands attention. Temperance is not about living a joyless existence, but about experiencing joy without being enslaved by it. When you can enjoy a good meal without overeating, appreciate entertainment without becoming addicted to it, or work hard without becoming a workaholic, you demonstrate mastery over your appetites rather than subjugation to them. This practice requires constant vigilance and honest self-assessment. You must regularly examine your habits and ask whether they serve your highest good or simply provide temporary pleasure at the cost of long-term well-being. The disciplined person enjoys life's pleasures as a free person, able to partake or abstain based on wisdom rather than compulsion. The cultivation of present moment awareness serves as both anchor and compass for the disciplined mind. Marcus Aurelius frequently reminded himself to focus on the task at hand, writing, "Concentrate every minute like a Roman on doing what's in front of you with precise and genuine seriousness." In our age of constant distraction, this ancient wisdom becomes even more crucial. The undisciplined mind lives everywhere except in the present moment, dwelling on past regrets, anxious about future uncertainties, or lost in fantasies that prevent engagement with reality. True self-discipline requires the ability to bring your full attention to whatever deserves it right now. This means when you're working, you work completely. When you're with loved ones, you're genuinely present. When you're exercising, you focus entirely on the movements and sensations of your body. This isn't just about productivity or efficiency, though those benefits naturally follow. Present moment awareness is about living your actual life rather than the distracted approximation that passes for living in most people's experience. Each moment of genuine presence strengthens your capacity for sustained attention, which is the foundation of all achievement. The person who can maintain focus despite internal and external distractions possesses a superpower in our fragmented world. This practice begins with small commitments, 5 minutes of undivided attention to a single task, and gradually expands as your capacity grows. The systematic embrace of voluntary discomfort serves as advanced training for the disciplined mind. The Stoics practice this through exercises like sleeping on hard surfaces, eating simple foods, or exposing themselves to cold weather, not from masochistic tendencies, but from recognition that comfort can become a prison. Seneca would periodically live as if poor to remind himself that he could survive and even thrive with less. This practice builds resilience and reduces the fear of hardship that keeps many people trapped in unsatisfying situations. When you voluntarily choose temporary discomfort, you prove to yourself that you can handle whatever life might demand. The person who has never been cold fears winter, but the person who has trained in the cold weathers any storm. This principle applies beyond physical comfort to include emotional and social discomfort as well. Sometimes discipline requires disappointing others, saying no to popular choices, or enduring criticism for doing what you believe is right. The more you practice accepting discomfort voluntarily, the less power involuntary discomfort has over your choices. This doesn't mean seeking suffering for its own sake, but rather developing the strength to choose long-term benefit over short-term ease. Every time you wake up early when you'd rather sleep in, every time you exercise when you'd rather rest, every time you do difficult work when easier options exist, you're building the mental muscle that allows you to act on your highest intentions rather than your lowest impulses. The discipline of daily reflection and honest self-examination creates the feedback loop necessary for continuous improvement. Marcus Aurelius ended each day by reviewing his thoughts, actions, and reactions, not for self-condemnation, but for learning. Seneca practiced similar evening reflections, examining his day like a judge reviewing a case, looking for evidence of growth in areas needing attention. This practice requires courage because honest self-examination often reveals uncomfortable truths about our motivations, habits, and blind spots. The undisciplined person avoids this discomfort by staying busy, distracting themselves, or blaming external factors for their struggles. The disciplined person welcomes the discomfort of truth because it provides the raw material for transformation. This daily practice might involve asking yourself, where did I act from my highest values today? Where did I fall short of my ideals? What triggered my loss of composure? How can I respond differently in similar situations? What progress did I make toward my important goals? This isn't about perfectionism or harsh self-criticism, but about maintaining the kind of honest awareness that allows for course corrections before small problems become major obstacles. The person who practices daily reflection catches character flaws while they're still manageable and celebrates progress while it's still fresh. This practice transforms life from a series of random experiences into a conscious journey of development. The commitment to virtue over pleasure represents perhaps the most challenging yet transformative aspect of Stoic self-discipline. Marcus Aurelius consistently chose what was right over what was easy, what served the common good over what served his personal desires. This principle doesn't demand a life devoid of pleasure, but rather insists that pleasure never become the master of your choices. When virtue and pleasure align, you can enjoy both. When they conflict, virtue must prevail. This creates a hierarchy of values that guides decision-making in difficult moments. The person who always chooses the comfortable path never develops the strength needed for meaningful achievement. The person who sometimes chooses difficulty in service of higher principles builds character that can weather any storm. This might mean having difficult conversations instead of avoiding conflict, investing time in long-term goals instead of immediate gratification, or maintaining your principles even when it costs you socially or professionally. Each choice for virtue over ease strengthens your character and increases your capacity for future challenges. The Stoics believed that virtue was the only thing that could never be taken from you, making it the most practical investment you can make. External circumstances may strip away wealth, health, or relationships, but the strength of character you've built remains yours regardless of what fortune brings. The development of unwavering perseverance through understanding the nature of progress transforms temporary setbacks into stepping stones. Marcus Aurelius faced military campaigns that lasted years, dealing with setbacks, defeats, and seemingly impossible odds. Yet he maintained his commitment to duty and virtue throughout. He understood that progress rarely follows a straight line, and that resilience comes from accepting the inevitable ups and downs of any meaningful endeavor. The undisciplined person expects immediate results and abandons efforts at the first sign of difficulty. The disciplined person understands that worthwhile achievements require sustained effort over extended periods, often with little visible progress in the early stages. This perspective allows you to maintain motivation during the inevitable plateaus and setbacks that characterize any significant undertaking. When you encounter obstacles, instead of seeing them as evidence that you should quit, you can recognize them as normal parts of the process. This understanding doesn't make challenges easier, but it prevents them from derailing your long-term commitment. The key is to focus on the process rather than just the outcomes, finding satisfaction in consistent effort rather than only in visible results. Every day you maintain your discipline, regardless of external feedback, you're building the kind of character that eventually produces extraordinary outcomes. The person who can persist through difficulty without losing heart possesses one of the most valuable qualities in human experience: The establishment of consistent daily routines creates the structure within which discipline can flourish. Marcus Aurelius began each day with reflective meditation, reminding himself of his duties and principles before engaging with the world's demands. The Stoics understood that willpower is a finite resource that can be depleted by constant decision-making, but routines eliminate many decisions by making beneficial behaviors automatic. When you establish strong morning and evening routines, you create bookends for your day that anchor you in your highest intentions. The morning routine might include meditation, physical exercise, planning, or study, activities that prepare your mind and body for the day's challenges. The evening routine might include reflection, preparation for the next day, or practices that promote restful sleep. Between these anchors, you can face whatever the day brings with greater stability and purpose. Routines also create momentum that makes discipline easier over time. The hardest part of exercise is putting on your shoes. The hardest part of writing is opening the document. The hardest part of meditation is sitting down. When these actions become automatic through routine, you bypass the resistance that prevents most people from following through on their intentions. However, routines must serve your goals rather than becoming rigid prisons. The disciplined person maintains routines that support their growth while remaining flexible enough to adapt when circumstances require it. The practice of purposeful solitude and inner dialogue strengthens the connection with your deeper wisdom and values. Marcus Aurelius regularly retreated into contemplation, using solitude not as escape from responsibility, but as preparation for better engagement with it. In our hyper-connected world, the ability to be alone with your thoughts without distraction has become a rare and powerful skill. Solitude allows you to hear the voice of your conscience above the noise of external demands and social expectations. It provides space for the kind of deep thinking that produces clarity about your priorities and values. The person who cannot tolerate being alone with themselves often lacks the self-knowledge necessary for authentic decision-making. Regular periods of solitude, whether through meditation, walking, journaling, or simply sitting quietly, create the conditions for wisdom to emerge. During these times, you can examine your motivations, clarify your goals, and align your actions with your deepest values. This isn't about becoming antisocial or avoiding relationships, but about developing the inner strength that makes you a better partner, friend, and contributor to society. The person who knows themselves deeply can engage with others from a place of authenticity rather than neediness or pretense. They can make decisions based on genuine conviction rather than external pressure or fleeting emotions. The cultivation of gratitude and appreciation for what you already possess creates contentment that reduces the compulsive seeking that undermines discipline. Marcus Aurelius regularly reminded himself to notice and appreciate the gifts already present in his life, from the basic miracle of existence to the specific people and opportunities he encountered. This practice isn't about positive thinking or denial of genuine problems, but about developing accurate perception that includes recognition of life's abundant gifts alongside its challenges. The undisciplined person constantly seeks happiness in acquisition, achievement, or external validation, creating an endless cycle of temporary satisfaction followed by renewed craving. The disciplined person finds deep satisfaction in what they already have while still working toward meaningful goals. This perspective provides stability that doesn't depend on external circumstances and reduces the desperate seeking that often leads to poor decisions. When you genuinely appreciate your health, relationships, opportunities, and even basic capabilities like sight, hearing, and thought, you operate from abundance rather than scarcity. This abundance mentality makes it easier to make decisions based on long-term good rather than immediate need. You're less likely to compromise your values for temporary gain when you already feel rich in what matters most. The practice of gratitude also trains your attention to notice positive aspects of your experience that might otherwise go unrecognized, creating an upward spiral of appreciation and contentment. These 12 principles of Stoic wisdom offer more than ancient philosophy. They provide a practical framework for building the self-discipline that transforms ordinary lives into extraordinary ones. Marcus Aurelius didn't develop these insights in ivory tower isolation, but through the daily practice of governing himself while governing an empire, facing personal loss while maintaining public strength, and choosing virtue in circumstances that would have justified lesser choices. The beauty of these principles lies not in their complexity, but in their accessibility. You don't need special circumstances or extraordinary abilities to begin practicing them today. You need only the willingness to take responsibility for your inner life and the commitment to consistent practice over time. Start with one principle that resonates most strongly with your current challenges. Practice it daily until it becomes natural, then gradually incorporate others. Remember that building discipline is like building physical strength. It requires consistent effort, progressive challenge, and patience with the process. There will be setbacks and failures, but these are opportunities for learning rather than reasons for abandonment. The goal isn't perfection, but progress, not immediate transformation, but steady development of character that serves you throughout life's inevitable changes. As you apply these ancient principles to modern challenges, you join a tradition that spans centuries, connecting you with countless others who have chosen the difficult but rewarding path of self-mastery. Your disciplined life becomes not only a gift to yourself, but an inspiration to everyone who witnesses what's possible when someone commits fully to their highest potential.